If we could rise for the pledge, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And with that, we'll call this regular meeting of the Houston County Board to order. First item of business is to approve the agenda.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded to approve the agenda. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Next is the approval of the minutes, of the previous minutes from the board meeting held July 27th, 2021.
Didn't see any mistakes. I'll move to approve those minutes.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the previous minutes from the meeting July 27th. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Any public comment? Anybody else come online, Donna?
Nope, nah, Brian's just got added, otherwise it's just county employees and Charlene.
They could have a public comment too.
Great question.
Hearing none, we will move on to the COVID-19 update report from Public Health.
Yeah, we sure missed you.
It's in person, though, it's better yet. Used to be on Zoom.
COVID felt badly that you had nothing on your agenda today. So it was glad to oblige. All right. Like we said several weeks ago, thinking that we weren't going to have these updates for some time, if ever again. But we did say that we would come before you again if there were some things that were important enough to get in front of the board. And that's kind of the case now. I'm sure many of you, if not all of you, have seen in the news rising case numbers driven largely by the Delta variant of the COVID-19 virus. That Delta variant is widespread across the nation, across the state, the region. It is also in Houston County. So it is a much more contagious version of COVID. And I think that's why we're seeing such dramatic increases in cases. Fortunately, in Houston County, while we have seen a significant uptick in cases, we're not seeing the dramatic increases that we're seeing in the news in other places. I wish I could guarantee that that's going to be the way it stays, as has been the case from the beginning of this fun adventure. It's really hard to predict what's coming next. With the rest of our comments, I'm just going to say this is a very fast changing issue and story. Even this morning, Heather and I were processing additional information that just came overnight and trying to decide exactly what is the best thing to present to the board. So again, Delta variant of COVID-19 is widespread across the region, the state, including Houston County. Another point we want to make is that the vaccine is highly effective. It has been and continues to be highly effective, and it's widely available. Even though there are some instances that we're hearing of in those who have been vaccinated, their illness is significantly less, and the viral load is far lower if they're vaccinated. Houston County has a relatively high vaccine rate. So as of yesterday, our 16 and over population, 67.4% of 16 and over have been vaccinated. That places us 7th in the state. 65 and older is 94.8%, placing us at 5th in the state. Total population is 55.7%, placing us at 11th in the state. And our 12 and over population is at 64.9%, placing us at 8th in the state. So with the exception of our total population figure, we're in the top 10 in all of those figures, and we have been throughout virtually the whole vaccine effort. So Minnesota is a relatively high vaccine rate state, and we're a relatively high county within the state. And yet we're seeing an increase in our cases, and we anticipate, unless something significant changes, we'll continue to see those increases. Recent CDC and MDH guidance speaks of community transmission levels. And so last week, the CDC updated their guidance, and just this week, MDH has issued guidance to us that supports that guidance. And essentially the transmission levels in the community at a threshold of 50 cases per 100,000, the community reaches a level of substantial transmission, or if you look at their maps, it puts you in this orange category. If you reach 100 cases out of 100,000, you reach a high level of transmission. If you look at any of these maps, that would put you in a red category. As of today, Houston County is in the orange category. We've exceeded the 50 per 100,000. If you do the math, we've got just under 19,000 people. We have about 9 to 10 cases we can give away in a 7-day period to stay under that 5 or 50 per 100,000. Not a lot of cases. I think the threshold is set at that level because we don't want to wait till it gets like it is in some of the southern states. So also important to note is, as part of the state budget process, the state COVID emergency was ended, and therefore the governor doesn't have the executive ability or has no executive order as it relates to COVID. So as we navigate this, it falls to local decision making, local entities, local municipalities, different organizations, and different businesses and employers. As you look around, the walls are kind of closing in. Large employers like Target, Walmart, Cub Foods, places where people are forward facing, they have a lot of public contact, they're reinstating mask mandates for all of their staff, whether they're vaccinated or not. That is the CDC guidance. Exceptionally difficult message to carry. We're also seeing primary healthcare providers throughout the state and also in our region reinstating mask mandates. Post-secondary education, colleges that are saying, hey, when you come back to school this fall, you're going to have to be masked up. I don't know if I can adequately say how disappointing it is to come before you with this news today. We've already run a few victory laps, and justifiably so. Our staff and our community and the volunteers and just the community and the county as a whole has been outstanding in our response to this. It's hard to put into words how disappointing and how much of a kick in the gut this is. At this point, I don't have a recommendation for the county board as to what you do with regard to county operations. I am working with our leadership team to consider what we need to be thinking about in Health and Human Services. We interact regularly with a disproportionate number of people who are vulnerable in Houston County. And with the ending of the emergency or the state of emergency in the state of Minnesota, a lot of the tools that we had for interacting with and serving people remotely are winding down. So that is bringing more people through our doors. If you come through our offices, you'll see people in the waiting rooms. And if you walk through the courthouse, you're seeing more people doing business in the courthouse as they had in the past. So we are wrestling with what that means for us operationally in public health and human services, and also wrestling with what our recommendation would be for the county as a whole. I'm gonna beg for a little additional time to have additional conversation with our leadership team, with other individuals within the county, and other counties, just to kind of get a sense of what others are doing in response to this. I wish I was smart enough to know exactly what to do. But as I mentioned at the beginning, things are changing really, really fast. It reminds us a lot of how this was in the beginning, where you make a decision, you think, okay, we're solid on this, and you wake up the next morning, the whole world's changed again. And you gotta throw that whole plan out, start over, and put another plan together, and by the end of the day, that is no good. And this is changing fast. And so that's what I've got for you this morning. I would guess that you have some questions. I'd also say, Heather, do you have anything you want?
Not really, just that we have utilized the vaccine we have had. Excuse me, the last doses with walk-in. So we do not have vaccine.
However, it's readily available with primary healthcare providers. I think there are a number of different drugstores that are providing vaccine. It's not hard to get if people want to get a vaccine. I think that's contributed to us saying, hey, we've got other work that's been on the back burner for a year and a half that needs done. And now primary healthcare and other partners are picking up the slack with vaccine. And so we had some Johnson & Johnson left. We've done some walk-in clinics, and as of this week, that's gone.
Has there been an recent uptick in vaccination rates?
I wouldn't say that I've seen that in Houston County. When I gave you the figures that I gave you today, I've been watching that for months, and they initially took off. As you know, there were people who were banging down the doors to get a vaccine, and then they really plateaued. And I stopped putting on my little sheet here at whole numbers and started going to tenths of percent. We maybe move a 10% every day or two in each of these measures. And then the state also, I previous to now, has had time to do what's called geocoding and kind of say, hey, were these people really here or were they there? And our county is unique, as we've said often, that people get tested in Wisconsin. Are they in Wisconsin? Are they here? And so kind of sorting out where people are. So the numbers in the last month or so have changed most dramatically as a result of that geocoding and just making sure that people are counted in the counties that they truly live in. But I wouldn't say that there's been an uptick in Houston County.
Can you still get Sterling? Are they still doing it?
We try to stay in communication with them. Sometimes it's making sure we know what's going on in our own ship, but we certainly, encourage our community members if they call us to, call. And sometimes it depends on what they have on hand and what's going to expire. But certainly in initial stages, we saw a lot more demand. There's a lot more phone calls. We're just not getting that. Media, spread the word as much as we can. When we had the walk-in appointments, we had them till about 6 o'clock. And it was difficult to use the vial. It's hard to move from that, fill every vial and don't waste a dose to, if anyone comes, let's just give it to them. That needs wasted.
You're at that luxury where you could do.
Yeah, that's a hard switch for me.
Yeah, I know. We don't like to waste things.
Because it's valuable. It's a valuable resource. So, we really try to be very mindful. But I think we've moved, both feet into the camp of, don't waste an opportunity.
Yep.
To vaccinate.
So I understand that you no longer have any vaccine in your,
Not in our office.
don't plan on doing it again because until we have a big rush or something maybe?
I guess I wouldn't say that. I think it depends on vaccine supply. That's something that we were just talking about yesterday, after this morning again. You know, I think it's safe to say that the two-dose series would be a little bit more difficult to manage because it's getting the same group of 10 or 12
Yeah.
people to come in at the same
Come back
time.
in.
It would be a lot more vaccine based, more than I, think we should be doing. But I think the J&J is an option that we need to still consider, and we need to look at, if we can even get that's been back ordered, trying to get information on what that delivery timeline would be. But statewide, there is a lot of J&J available. It all expires at the same time. So there's not a lot of flexibility to move vaccine around right now. But we are looking into what would that look like if we could get someone in and be able to just have that available. We also want to be mindful that it's a resource that the people.
It seems that if the drugstores are making it available and of course, the hospitals and clinics are making it available, that we'll direct them that way. The other question I had is, how are we getting true numbers? Let's say somebody goes over to La Crosse Clinic and becomes positive test and becomes ill. Do they automatically notify us, or is that
That's a
some steps there?
10-day deal.
That process has been a real dance for us. And so essentially what happens, virtually everybody in Houston County doctors or receives primary health care in Wisconsin or Iowa. I think there's a few that maybe use remote healthcare, but for the most part, they're out of state, Wisconsin or Iowa. And the majority of those be Wisconsin. And so what happens, somebody gets a positive test in Wisconsin, that is recorded with the Wisconsin Department of Public Health, who then sends it to the Minnesota Department of Health, who then sends it to us. And so we saw a delay in the growth of our cases based on that little do-si-do that has to happen. I think we're starting to see an uptick in cases, and it probably has a bit of a lag in comparison to other counties that have either primary healthcare providers running their county or a state in the state.
But yes, we do get notified though.
Yeah,
eventually.
In the electronic system called MEDS.
Eventually.
Electronic disease surveillance system. So once those test results get to the state, they enter them in that system, and we can then log into that system to see the cases in Houston County.
And one final question, somebody asked me the other day, testing positive and having the symptoms are two different things.
Often.
And so these numbers that you have today, 9 or 10 people, are they having the symptoms, are actually ill with it, or did they just test positive? I guess is.
That's something that would be determined in a case investigation. So let's say I go in and I get tested and John goes in. And if I choose to do the case interview, I can disclose that information, whether I'm asymptomatic, symptom onset, disclose where I've been, disclose my contacts, to let them know who should quarantine. If John would have the right to make the decision to decline the case interview, and he would not need to share, he can just, no, I'm not doing that. That is an option for all Minnesota residents who test positive. They do not have this. And that we would not then know if they're symptomatic or not.
I think that the other thing to note is that when we get numbers from the state, we don't know which of those are symptomatic or asymptomatic. We just know it's positive. Yes.
So you're doing case investigation still?
Locally, we were for quite a while, and then we moved to vaccination.
You
It's
have
just we didn't have the capacity
Yep.
to do that. And so that's something that has stayed with the state, because our numbers, they had staffed up to do that. So
Mhm.
that was continuing to be manageable for them, and, up until just whatever, last week, whenever we were out of vaccine, it was just like, oh, that's right. That's very, very small half picture that we
Mhm.
But I think with our role in public health, our focus should continue to be if we're going to put resources similar to vaccination, the case investigation, contact tracing, the state is staffed up to continue to do that. And they are also, there is a long range plan on how we're going to demobilize that when they do eventually move away from that.
Mhm.
So that is something that, will occur at some point when.
Okay.
At this point.
I would also note that, any of these answers to these questions are driven by the realities of how this progresses. So where we're at right now is numbers can be managed with what the state has in place. And if that's all that it's gonna be, we can come up with a plan and have that plan for you and describe it to you today. It likely will change and change and change and change. So I think we in local public health have to be ready to put our shoulder to the wheel again if this gets to a point that MDH needs help. If we get to a point where we have much more demand for vaccines than there's the availability with primary healthcare to provide it, different variables like that, we need to decide where Houston, or certainly Houston County, but public health's role is. And it's just hard to know. I mean, if our surge here mirrors anything that we're seeing in other states, we're gonna have to mobilize a lot of the things that we did throughout much of the pandemic.
So if they would say next week that everybody should get a booster shot, would we put on a couple clinics down here again like we did before, if they're supposed to get a booster shot?
So far, there isn't any indication from Minnesota Department of Health or whatever. I think there's discussion and consideration of how long does a vaccine last and will you need a booster? And that's kind of a separate story at this point. I haven't seen anywhere with MDH or CDC that's saying because of Delta variant or because of the length of coverage for the vaccine that they're recommending a booster. I haven't even heard that there is a booster. Again, that's one of the variables that if that changes, we have to look at the needs of local community and say, what's our role in that? Public health is often in a role of, if there isn't anyone else to provide this, we're going to step into that gap and try and do the best we can. So I don't have any definitive information on whether there'd be a booster or not, when it would be. But I will say that we pay attention to that. And if there's need for our assistance, we will step into that gap.
And I think we definitely reach out to our healthcare partners as we've been communicating with them throughout to meet what their capacity is. For their plan, just so that the needs of our residents are met.
There was some guy on the news this morning, and he was talking about I might have to do a booster in October. And before we go into the winter months, they didn't have no details. They had nothing on how it's going to
And
work.
I mean, you make a really good point because what we get those questions, just like what you have asked, we have the same information that they're getting and coming and asking us. So that's really frustrating to not be able to provide those answers or have more information, but it definitely something we're paying attention to. And the main thing is that we make decisions with the best interest of what gaining access for our residents. So that they
Things can change overnight too.
fortunate or unfortunate.
Again, from the beginning of this, we made a commitment to you guys and to people in Houston County that we're going to bring scientifically vetted information, and we relied primarily, almost exclusively on CDC and Minnesota Department of Health for our information. And I think the thing that's hard with that is there's so much information that's bombarding us. You turn on the radio and you listen to it on the way into work. You pick up a newspaper, you look at any website or whatever, and it's just pounding.
Well, it's kind of hard for messaging, isn't it? I mean,
You have no idea.
it's just, I don't know how you guys do it. It drives me crazy.
A lot of what I find myself asking is this something or is it nothing? And sometimes it's the beginning of something, but it isn't something yet. And we're focusing on what is something now. And again, we're focusing on what we're hearing from CDC and MDH. And maybe some of that information that is beginning to be discussed in different places. I presume there's all sorts of testing being done on boosters or how long a vaccine lasts. I don't have enough hours in the day to know all that. But when it comes to us, those vetted sources, that's when it becomes something for us. And then we step into the fray and say, okay, what do we need to do if something happens before Houston County? Messaging, Commissioner Johnson, I've never quite experienced anything like this.
Commissioner Malcolm was on NPR coming up this morning between 8:30 and 9.
Yeah.
Stated basically the same thing you did. And even the breakthroughs are less than 1%.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, they're seeing breakthrough, but it's very low percentage, and it's the people who have that breakthrough are comparatively far less ill.
So why all the hype in the media then? Or is that just a, huh?
that's what it is, hype.
It sells in, it sells there. I don't know.
They just can't let it go. It's just-
Yeah.
So are the MDH waivers still in place?
They are winding down.
They're winding down, so they're going to eliminate, that's gonna go away pretty soon, or just a
Yeah,
little bit
with-
at a time, or?
With a lot of those waivers for the Department of Human Services were tied to the governor's
Emergency,
declaration
Mhm.
and state of emergency and all of that. There are a few that are tied to federal emergency declaration, and that's still in place. But a lot of those waivers are starting to wind down. They kind of had built-in wind downs like 60 or 90 days after that emergency is done. Heather's just informing me. Sorry. Go ahead.
Our WIC population, sorry, this was a longer note than I realized, but I wanted to.
On advice of counsel.
Our WIC population serves pregnant moms who recently had children or up to age 5. So when we look at that population, those children are eligible for vaccine yet. So those waivers are extended a little bit farther. That's not really, a blanket necessarily that they would fall under that. So we do keep an eye on that, and our family health staff, Mary Zapke, does pay attention to that, is looking, we continue to serve them, likely giving them the virtual option, because they don't have the option to be vaccinated, should they want to be. So we need to be mindful of that.
So you said the federal emergency declaration is still in place. The state declaration has ended.
Correct.
We ended the county declaration. Earlier, you said that it might be up to us to have our own declaration. Can the governor not have another state emergency declaration, or did the legislature change that?
I don't know the answer to that. I know what and I know what you guys have seen. I mean, the state emergency declaration and the governor's executive authority was a very contentious thing and a pivotal point in the negotiation around the state budget. Whether that would happen again, what set of circumstances would be necessary, I couldn't hazard a guess.
Now, when you read the reports that are out there and whatnot, you just told us that Houston County's in the orange, 50 per 100,000. Did we just get that? Because when you read, it's Winona, Fillmore, Dodge, those counties are they worse than us?
Dodge is red now. I think most of southeast Minnesota is orange.
Okay, so we just moved to orange because we weren't recorded as,
We weren't recorded as orange a few days ago, so it's
Yesterday,
Yeah.
yeah, so this came out, when it kind of slammed onto my radar towards the end of last week. We were in the orange as of yesterday.
then with regard to your offices, are you in contact with the county schools as far as, I mean, school's gonna start pretty soon, are you in contact with the
Yeah,
schools as
August
far as
is
process?
in constant contact with the schools, with the superintendents, building principals. They, I don't want to speak too much out of turn, but I do believe they're kind of 4 superintendents are gathering this week to just look at what our plans are going back to school. Most schools were waiting for the safe learning plan, the new recommendations to come out, and those were posted, I believe, last Wednesday, I think. So there were a couple schools that were starting last Thursday around the state and were anxiously waiting for that guidance and what that is. In that safe learning plan, it is face-to-face instruction. There is not levels of hybrid or distance like there was last year. in the state pointing plan. But as far as the school districts in Preston County, we continue to be a resource for them. Provide them with information, if they have questions, move that up the chain if we don't have that answer for them. And Audrey will be meeting with them, just providing whatever resources and support.
But you just watch the news around the nation as far as that's concerned, and too many people are. So I mean,
Yeah.
you're gonna have the same kind of situation in Houston. It's just a curiosity.
Well, from what I've read, that the state of Minnesota is leaving it up to the local school districts to make a decision on how they want to
That's what I
proceed.
heard too.
Thus far, yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's related to the fact that there isn't a state emergency.
right.
And so there's guidance from Minnesota Department of Health, there's guidance from the Minnesota Department of Education. But it's left to each of those school boards.
Right.
We occasionally get asked to, if we have authority or influence over those individual school districts, and we do not. There's no statutory authority for the county to come in and say, you do this.
Would you like that?
I would not. But I think, there's people who are concerned on either side of that equation. People who are concerned what the school's going to do to protect children, and they want them to go further. And then there's people who feel that some of those mitigations are unnecessary. And I do not think that it's going to be hard to strike a balance to provide the best service and education for kids in their district. It's not unlike the things that we have the rest of the, but I think with schools, it's a little more pronounced because they have a large portion of the population currently vaccinated. So, but we have throughout the pandemic been very connected with the schools, try to provide them as much support and assistance as possible as they make their decisions.
I guess my only problem is when you go to the stores like you were talking about. Walmart, all this stuff. I think your percentages are wrong because apparently 100% of the people are vaccinated, because it asks people that aren't vaccinated to wear a mask, and nobody wears a mask. There's no way of telling, but only vaccinated people go to that store, apparently.
Well, and I think Walmart, they started now, you gotta be vaccinated to work there.
Yeah.
But what good does that do? You have everybody coming in, hey, you better gotta have everybody or not. I mean, it's just because you get vaccinated for pneumonia or the flu, don't mean you ain't gonna get it. I mean, I got vaccinated for the flu and I got so damn sick, I thought I was gonna die. I mean, just because you get the vaccine, don't mean you ain't gonna get it.
Yeah, there are some cases of vaccine breakthrough, but the severity of your illness is far less than if you were unvaccinated. I think the incidence of people who are in intensive care or who have died because of that or the virus, who are also vaccinated, it's very, very low, if at all.
They said this morning was like 90% of unvaccinated people were. Vaccinated people don't get it. It's hard to say.
I'm just curious, there's this $100 payment to get a vaccine. I guess, do we line up to get them because we had them 6 months ago, or do we get, are those the futures? I heard that. And I said,
Can you send me $100?
I wonder if that's the way to go, but.
Yeah, where do I start with that?
Amendments.
People have to pay people to do the right thing.
That's unfortunate.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
I guess, one last thing I'd just say is, things have changed dramatically since Thursday when we put in this agenda request. We may need to be visiting more with Bob or with the Public Health and Human Services Committee as things are changing more quickly. If that's okay with you guys.
It seems like we got a lot of room on our agenda, so I don't think it hurt.
Let us know if you have questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, like you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And I was right.
Yeah. you can.
You guys asked 20 minutes of questions.
Yeah.
Can't blame you for everything. Moving on to the consent agenda. We have one item, the approval of the guardianship contract with Kathy Robish.
This is pretty routine. I'll make a motion to approve the
Consent
Kathy
agenda.
Rogish guardianship contract.
That just re-upping the contract.
Mhm, yes.
I'll second
Motion made and seconded to approve the consent agenda with one item, the approval of the guardianship with Kathy Robish. Further discussion? Guardianship contract
Mhm.
that Kathy Robish provides, it isn't for her.
Mhm.
Okay. No other discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We have no action items. Discussion items. Board updates.
This is the question thing here. It's kind of interesting. A lot of questions, 40 pages here.
Right.
Yeah, so this is, it doesn't say American Rescue Plan. They're calling the specific funding for counties, coronavirus, state and local fiscal recovery funds, frequently asked questions, but this is where you can read about uses for the American Rescue Plan dollars.
Okay.
So take this home and read it. This is the latest, so.
And where did this come from? It's this a state, federal?
Yeah,
It's from the treasury, I
it's
believe.
federal, and
Okay.
there's some websites on the very front page where it goes into more detail, but I just printed the frequently asked questions from there because a few had asked for it. So I wanted to make sure that everyone had it.
I spent the afternoon and evening reading this yesterday. Holy cow. I'll wait until next meeting to discuss it, I guess, because you guys don't have it.
I was just thinking, I've been thinking about this too, but I think first thing we should be focusing on, because we have time here, but is to get like the IT needs that we need to have in the county, get that figured out. Andy's been working on that.
Mhm.
And also with the highway department, Brian's been bringing up about, the projects that he had to put off because of less state dollars, federal dollars. And have him, and I think we've directed him to do that as well. And I think that should be the first things we should concentrate on. And I know the other one was broadband. That's something we need to get more information on that. Also, there's an infrastructure bill that's going through the Senate right now. So there's a possible, good chance that's going to get passed it's a $1.2 trillion bill too. And there's going to be a lot of money in there for broadband for them as well. So, because broadband is so expensive. I mean, we have 3 million to make any difference or dent. We're going to have to give out a substantial amount of money. So I think if we concentrate first, this is just my opinion, if we concentrate on the IT and the highway department road projects and stuff first, and then see what we got left to work with. And
But we'll have to get this scepter sewer thing and this out here fixed. I think.
Brian's working on putting numbers together for that.
Yep, and they
That's
got
what
you.
we need is we have to put numbers together. I saw in that Macon news that Renwick County?
Renville.
Renville County. We're starting to put numbers next to their, and that's what we have to do next.
Yep.
But I agree that we need to start with IT and highway. We had also mentioned public health had a loss of income too. I don't know if John has some numbers for us on that. And then, like you said, the sewer, water plan.
Stormwater. water.
Stormwater.
It's stormwater, it's not sewer, it's
Yeah,
I meant
stormwater
stormwater. right.
for the parking lot, is
Yes.
that right?
No, I'm talking watersheds.
Yeah, we should do.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
I thought you meant for this, I know that was brought up too about the parking lot or something, I thought that's what Brian,
That's Brian's working on that through the highway department.
okay, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, for the watersheds, no, for that, I think that's something that we can work with through EDA to set up a application process. And, we'll have to decide or designate to what,
Because they might be getting some federal and state money too.
maybe,
Already.
I don't know.
Yeah, they didn't get their state money, but
There was nothing from the state and they didn't get anything from this rescue plan either, from what I've gathered, so,
No, they haven't got nothing from the rescue plan.
No.
Or could we get-
townships have gotten some,
Did they get some townships?
yep. Townships have,
Uh-huh.
How
The
much?
the biggest thing is to make sure that we're doing things that are qualified.
Right.
So I'd like to write a letter to AMC and see if they've got anybody that is specifically, they can review what we want to do to make sure that it qualifies.
Mhm.
Or if there is somebody, because we can talk internally amongst ourselves, but it might be good to have an outside opinion.
well, we could always clarify with them.
Right.
But I know I talked to Matt Hilgart last week before the meeting and they're they don't know any more than what we know here in this sheet,
Mhm.
Mhm.
I have to say that Minnesota Associated Townships have really got it outlined really well. And so does the Minnesota League of Cities, but I haven't seen an outline from AMC yet as of yet. Yeah.
Are they more cautious, AMC? than the
Yeah,
other
I don't
two,
know.
Perhaps?
I don't know. Because they're trying to placate to all the counties that are in different situations, they got metro counties, they got,
Yeah,
and then their versions of infrastructure are different. Yeah, I don't know if it's a political thing or what, but
So how much should we just set a price like for the watersheds? Each so much, or how do you think?
Well, we have to have that application.
well, it'd have to be a fair
Mhm.
equity.
allocation.
Yeah.
Because there's only, what, 3, 4? Winnebago, Bear Creek,
And Crooked Creek.
Crooked Creek. So there's only 3, is there?
We weren't going to do anything with Pine Creek.
No, that's a different, that's like the one
One
watershed river, one watershed plan, and that the Crescent one is the same structure.
Right.
I mean, if you were gonna give it to all of them and say, this is what you have to do with it, maybe that would be okay without an application. I mean, usually when we do an application, like we did an application for businesses because it was first come, first served, and we didn't know how many we were gonna get, and we wanted to make it fair.
Right?
But if you're willing to allocate a certain dollar amount to all, like for broadband, we would probably have to have an application because you would want to give such a big chunk that you would only be able to award one. And
Mhm.
therefore, there would have to be a process of grading the application and picking. But if you feel that you have enough funds to dedicate the same amount to all of them, assuming they're gonna use it for an eligible use, that would probably be okay, I think. I mean, the reason for the application is to make it fair,
Mhm.
especially if you're picking amongst them. Does that make sense?
If we're only doing 3, we could just do a set amount that we're willing to.
Well, I think we should talk to Soil and Water because these watersheds are in different sizes and whatnot, so maybe
Mhm.
they've got a handle on, this watershed needs X number of dollars to do these projects. This one's better shape, only needs this much money. Bear Creek is only a part of Houston County, the rest is in Iowa, so maybe they don't need as much money, but
That's
don't
just
you think
it.
Soil
That's
and
just
Water
it.
would have a handle on
Mhm.
putting together numbers of what it would take?
Yeah.
I think we should have them come in, sit down with us and discuss that.
Well, I think we should give them advance warning and say, can you put together
Some
numbers
numbers,
and bring them to us?
right.
If they could tell us their needs of each of these areas, because like like I said, the size of something, we like give them X number of dollars. That might be a drop in the bucket for one of the larger ones, but that might be too much for the smaller ones. So we
Right.
gotta, see what are the needs versus the wants
Mhm.
and go from there.
And each shed, watershed has different pots too. Some might have 5 things. And so there's more repair for this section. and This section only gets 10,000 for repairs. They get 25. That's where I think soil and water can bring a lot of help to us.
Draws that don't have any ponds that probably should have ponds.
Yeah, well,
And where the farmer is expected to pay for part of this, maybe we
and they-
allocate dollars to make more of these happen. or whatever.
I mean, if we want to put in more structures, I suppose we could allocate money towards it,
I think soil and water is the one that's got to come up with
With
numbers.
some numbers.
It's a good idea.
For the watershed,
So the watershed, yeah.
I could, if you'd like, I could talk with Soil and Water and ask about that.
I think that'd be great.
I think it's the same thing we just asked Highway Department and IT, give us numbers.
Mhm.
Really gotta have them before you can make a
Well,
decision.
we did get some preliminary numbers a little while ago for concrete. That was, yeah, that was a lot of money.
I don't think we can give them all that much.
And then it's up to us to make the
I will
decision.
confer with them.
All right, we got 3 projects that we got to get the numbers for.
And I know Andy's working on the IT numbers. He also mentioned like over in the CC building, the jail and whatnot, the cameras that are already outdated as far as the coaxial versus the new type of thing. The biggest thing is all these ideas, but are they justifiable as far as the
Plus-
rescue plan?
And I know he's doing this, but you gotta keep in mind for maintenance in the future here. I mean, this is gonna cost us more money. I mean, each improvement we make, this is something that we're gonna have to maintain, so there's gonna be future expense there, so. And I know Andy's, cognizant of that, so.
And I talked to surveyor's office this morning, and they got equipment that's 10, 12 years old and starting to give them problems and whatnot. The big thing is, can we make it fit the criteria for the American Rescue Plan? Or is it something that we can't use?
But there again, we could use that loss of income from highway to
Right.
do whatever. Yeah,
Whatever we want.
That part,
Exactly.
well, that part is pretty
yeah,
clear. It's fairly clear as far as, I
Mhm.
mean, there's an actual number there,
right.
whether we want to use that or not, but
That much.
yeah.
Sounds good.
Same thing is true as far as, and you read in the, Minnesota County's newsletter and whatnot of what some of the other counties are doing. There's some of them that are doing assistance for rent, people that haven't, owners of property that haven't received their rent. There's a couple of counties that are doing for childcare,
Mhm.
education, providing education through their local like Southeast Minnesota Tech or whatever, through a local secondary education that allows people to get an education in childcare to try and enhance service.
Right.
So they pay the tuition for those people that want to do that to try and expand. And there's housing and whatnot. I don't know if we've got housing problems, but as much as the renters.
It'd be nice to help the renters, but I don't think we want to get into any housing.
No, you mean the landlords, not the renters, yeah.
I don't think you,
But
I don't
that's
think you
coming to
direct to
an-
the landlords, you go to the renters that allows them to pay the landlord.
So the state has had a program available for renters and landlords. Landlords could directly apply. So just so you know, that
Yeah.
is out there. There already was a resource.
Okay,
I'm not positive if they're still taking applications or not, but the latest one, landlords could actually be eligible because they were not eligible for previous ones. And so many landlords said, I can't get my renters to take advantage of this, but I am still missing out.
is that, what department is that through? Is that through Deeds or who's it through?
Yes. I think it's on, I think you can find it on the deed website. It's the Minnesota Department of Housing.
Yeah.
You can Google it, and I can email it to you too. It's easy to find.
Luckily, I didn't have to worry about that. My people paid.
I have given that information to several landlords in the county. In fact, someone just stopped by yesterday and asked for it.
So people are checking into it and asking, that's good.
And there are some counties that are dealing with, assisting their EMT programs. As far as that's
Well, I
concerned.
mean, they need updates. I'm not against that.
My biggest concern is finding things that qualify.
And,
We need to study this thing here.
Mhm.
Simjack called, or they sent me an email, and they were wondering if they could get any of this American Rescue money. They want to remodel the building up here a little bit, make it better. I did not have to ask Allison what to do. I don't.
It's interesting they called you because I go there on Tuesdays and Thursdays specifically to
Well, I just got
help
the
unload the
email.
truck and they never said.
Just got it yesterday. at
Yeah,
5.
you're on the SimCat committee. so-
Yeah, I just got that message yesterday at 5, so they probably talk about it then. I don't know. All the board meetings next Monday.
Like you said, we have time, but really time flies by. so
Oh, gosh.
fast.
Shit, we're in middle of August pretty quick here. We're the 4th of July.
So,
Sure. But that's an item, you guys, if you wouldn't mind thinking about that, they could use the help. I'll help some lot, he knows.
you're gonna contact Soil and
Yeah.
Water. I'll talk to Brian again to see how long before he's got numbers put together for us. Who else should we talk to?
And Andy's online, so that's,
Yeah.
so. Those are
Do you
the
think
top
we should, do
three.
you think we should go talk to Spring Grove and Centec?
Well, we've done that already,
They've been here, but
but
it's just a broad overview.
the other thing that the area that they don't cover, this other company that's got the contract for the 6 years or whatever to cover this Caledonia, it is like a square section. Is there any way we can communicate with them and ask them, are you guys gonna do anything here? Are you going to bow out here or what? I mean, because that's the ones that really need some infrastructure too here. And the fact that they've got it tied up, where is that at? What's gonna happen there?
That's the key word. They tied it up.
Yeah,
Well, I heard that the ones in Houston are buying out some of the areas from Spring Grove now, so I hear all kinds of stuff.
See, there's an area where that a company has already basically has money, that's federal money to update.
yeah, they won
And
the
they
bid.
have 6 years to do it.
Yep.
And so no one else can use federal money in that area until the 6 years is up, or
Right.
until they at least, I think, say that they're not gonna do it. So we could try to communicate with that company that won that to see if they are not interested, but I don't even know if that's a thing, but we could try.
It would be nice to know what their intentions are, because if they're not, why not let Spring Grove and Centec come together and
Right.
Exactly. I mean, they tied it up for some reason. Unless they're sitting there thinking back, well, this will be more valuable down the road if we try and, for lack of a better word, try
Well,
and sell it.
I think the thing is that whole program or that whole thing that they won the federal money
Bid,
on, or however it worked, that was pre-COVID.
It
So at
was.
that time, they were thinking that 6 years to develop this area was actually a pretty quick turnaround, but then COVID happened and we saw this increased need for it because we have students working, doing homework from home. We have people working from home, on and on it goes. And it just so happens that that money has the same timeline that these American Rescue Plan dollars have. I don't know if that's making sense. I don't 100% understand this either, but that's my,
Yeah, I don't
General
100% understand it either, but,
I'll see if I can find out who it is and report back.
well, the major block is the Caledonia area, from what I understand.
Well, I mean,
There's big areas all over the county that don't have it.
But I mean, for this, what this company has the contract for, the bid for.
Right.
Is like, I mean, because what Spring Grove or Centec had a map and it showed,
Mhm.
it's a big chunk.
We got all that.
I got Spring Grove within a quarter mile of my place and I can't get it. And then now Houston's fighting with them over that line. Because that wasn't supposed to be Spring Grove's, but they did it anyhow. Now, they Centel's going after them, you're in our area, so that should be our line. So that's, they're fighting over that line. Like Spring Grove, they pay dividends to the townships if they have cable. If they were running through your township. you get a- Wilmington used to get it like a profit share.
Yeah, they're a co-op.
Yeah.
But Centec is too.
So a Centec and Spring Grove Communications recommended following a similar application to like the border to border. But another thing to think about is that's not gonna be the easiest thing to pick and grade. I mean, we are going to have to make it fair and we will probably only be able to award one and it may not even be either of them.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it's not that it isn't doable, but I don't know who we would have. I mean, we'll just have to see. You know, we would have to really make sure that our grading system was,
Yeah, that's the stuff
Fair
we
and
need
that
to find out and
know
figure out.
how.
The AMC might be able to help us with some of that. I mean, there's other counties that are doing it and they're further along than we are. so-
And we can talk to other counties too.
Yep.
And now that we know, Fillmore maybe is giving us some to both, who knows? I guess we gotta kind of sit back and let things fall into
Play
place.
some calls.
I can call Semtech and ask them what kind of money they're thinking. Or do they got, how would that work? They gotta do an application?
Well, the thing that I keep trying to say is that if for a broadband project, these are huge, very expensive projects. So we most likely would only be able to award one. You probably wouldn't be able to split it up and give it to more than one because then it wouldn't be enough money to make a difference. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And so we would probably have to have an application project process and pick one. And, you know, it would be competitive and we would have to make it fair.
As far as the Semtech thing, that'd be something that we could do if after we're all committed on a lot
Oh,
of
did
these
you say
major.
Semtech? I thought you said a Centec.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would,
Semtech, I do think has an eligible project because they did ask me about it too.
you know,
So that might be where you could just give them an allocation. That's just, they don't need an outrageous amount of money.
It's a smaller amount, so.
Cause I think we gave them 10,000.
last time for the CARES
Yeah.
money, at the end, we divvied up what was left.
Yeah, we could do that again. now.
There's other food shells in the county too.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm volunteer at the La Crescent one too.
Yeah, you don't wanna miss anybody.
It's hard work giving away money.
I never thought it'd be this hard.
Correctly.
Okay.
Let's go buy some trucks for Dewey to hell with it.
One other thing I want to report. Contacted me about this. Preston has a groundbreaking for the new veterans home on next Monday. So I can go to that as the county representative.
Mhm. Okay.
Did anybody else want to go?
What time was it at?
10 o'clock.
I'm gonna be in Oregon,
We on Winlock.
on the Snake River, Columbia River, I don't know which one.
From where the fires.
I might ride along with you on that. I'll give you a call.
I've got a commitment too, so
Okay.
that's why I asked you if you were gonna.
Mhm.
Good.
Sounds good.
Okay. That's all I got.
Well, I had 2 negotiation meetings with last week and also the city meeting, which Dewey and I attended as the county representatives had, and Dewey can speak better on that one than I can, because he actually spoke at the meeting.
Are you done? with
Go
your-
ahead.
Oh, okay. Anyway, there's about 50, 60 people that are about no wake on the West Channel Bridge or West Channel. And because of the bass tournament coming up soon, and they're all excited about it. And so we're trying to get a committee. There's been a lot of things that the city of La Crescent has done with lacrosse. They have a mutual agreement with the fire department. They got this, they got all these other committees. I said, well, let's try and get something hammered out. I know the line, how to enforce it is gonna be a problem, but maybe just getting some buoys out there. But the Corps of Engineers didn't answer me until the last minute, and then it wasn't even worth talking. That's another issue. And the Coast Guard didn't respond to my request to see what they could do. So we're gonna try and have a committee between some La Crosse City, La Crosse County, and us to see if we can come up with some kind of resolution. Because what I was hearing, it's not only the time of the bass tournament when big boats come through and make the waves, there's also the weekenders that make waves. So
They're not abiding by the no wake zone?
but there isn't any there because it's an area that cannot be enforced. Mark has said that, you know, where's the line? Where do we enforce it? Where does La Crosse enforce?
Yeah, for the state line.
So we're gonna try and put in some no wake, but I guess the question is gonna be the legal part.
Is that like a joint powers agreement?
Yeah, well, that'd be similar to that. That's what we're gonna try and do. And hopefully we can get something to give authority, but in all honesty, as I look at it, I would like to get some buoys put up there. And hopefully that would be enough, just the buoys. We get, and the enforcement. would
It'd be
have some-
something.
It'd be better than nothing.
Mhm.
But that's gonna be my starting point, but you know, we gotta do it right. Otherwise, there's gonna be things, but I had somebody say, well, how come they can go whizzing by down by the new houses in Brownsville, but we can't enforce it here? And I said, well, that's federal water there.
Mhm.
It's all federal water in the tracks.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so but I listened to him and I gave him some thought that we'll try and do something again. I know Jack has worked on it in the past. We'll see if we can get something out this time. That was the highlight of my last week.
It's a very vocal meeting.
Very vocal.
It was well run. It was 1 hour long. Mayor Pellinger does a good job with that.
Yeah, and I've heard, I even been approached since then, you know, can't even go to a joint and enjoy a night without having somebody ask, what are you gonna do about that?
Yeah.
Yep, that's my report.
Mhm.
Any other volunteers?
Well, the only thing I got to report is that we went to that news conference last week with Tina Smith about Mike and closing. I know there was, people from Caledonia EDA, some people from the city there. It was a Zoom call, Zoom conference. But I was wondering what you guys thought about if we could write up a letter as a county board and submit it to the company, asking them to reconsider. I know it's probably might be futile, but I think it's something we should at least make an attempt to do and ask them to reconsider their move. From what I understand, the last I heard that they're moving the helmets to Missouri and the bat production's going over to China, and that's the part that has got everybody upset. The fact that they're moving some production over to China. And I know Tina Smith has been
Mhm.
going at it with the angle of through Major League Baseball and trying to get them to put pressure on. And I think we should try to do our own pressure here and try to have a letter and say how well this has been a community company that's been supportive on both sides as far as, they supporting the local schools and we support them as a company and as, try to convince them to let's try to keep this,
Mhm.
partnership going here. But
I agree.
I've asked Allison if she would want to write something like that for us, but if that would be okay with you, we could try to get something written up and submit it.
I agree. Allison, are you willing to draft a letter? I know that, I think Greg Davids and Jeremy have submitted,
Yep, and they were there too, yep.
and Tina's was very good, the one that was in the paper anyway.
Sounds like a good idea.
I think so.
But I agree, the county should also
Show our support.
show our
Exactly.
support. Yeah.
Right. You know,
Exactly.
I mean, there's a lot of jobs and there's a lot of taxpayers that pay
What
the
about
taxes
80
in Houston County that work
People
up there.
there, 80 employees.
Yeah,
rough-
we
rough-
think-
Roughly 80, yeah.
We think that about 80 employees would be displaced.
Mhm.
They have had more employees in the past, but after COVID, that seems to be the number.
Okay.
And just for the record, we do have enough similar openings in Houston County to find those people jobs in the county. And if this does happen, that is going to be extremely important because we do not want people working outside the county, then shopping outside the county, then doing other business outside the county, then potentially moving outside the county. That could be very.
Is that where workforce development would come in and?
We are working with workforce development on this, but actually the state has a team called, I believe it's called the recovery team that would actually come in. And Adam Swan, the city clerk, myself, and Dee from workforce development will be meeting with them this Wednesday
Okay.
to try to develop a plan for if this for sure does happen. So
Okay.
we are working on it on both angles.
Right.
One, we're trying to convince them to please reconsider and stay. And then on the other side of it, we are also being realistic and thinking about potential other jobs for these employees.
Be prepared.
That would require retraining. I mean, other jobs would, for the employees would require some retraining.
I mean, not necessarily, it depends. I think that we have some very comparable jobs. That would be an easy transition. I mean, of course, I think any company that would hire someone would give them their own training to an extent. Workforce development does have some funding too to help train people
Right.
in specific areas. So they may be able to help out if someone does need additional special training, but it depends on where they would be placed.
Mhm.
Snowpack is not gonna rent any more land. They're just gonna run their packaging plant up there. They're not gonna do any farming anymore, so that's. gonna
Really?
be a lot.
Is that official?
I think so. That they have is getting rented by other people. So that's gonna be hurting us too down the road. Cause they probably hire 30 people to be out there farming all the time between hay and all the crops and different crops. There's 30 people that won't have a job.
It's all organic, so I mean, the people that are renting don't necessarily have to do it. Then we downsize.
Well, well, it's just like everybody else, can't get out. You know, that's the key. And the guys that got it, my age or older, and they want to slow down instead of speeding up. And just, young people to come to work. That's terrible. I think.
That's all I really had. I had the,
I just had the shop highway department meeting Friday
oh
morning.
yeah, we had that last Friday.
Everything's going pretty good there. I guess we had no changes or that they said about it, so.
Yeah,
Trying to get a pond thing figured out down there below that guy's cabin. The other night his whole lawn was full of mud and slut and all kinds of stuff. Wrecked his yard halfway.
Does that back up?
What comes, it won't happen after they get done, but it's coming down on the outside of the road, running along that fence that goes down there. And it's breaking into his yard. I think they got it fixed. I haven't looked there. Down there, and they put in some black plastic around there, put in some cement barriers. Hope we can get it fixed till it gets blacked out.
Like a silt fence type operation.
All seated, I mean, everything looks good what they did, it's just that we gotta get that water to go take place. But then the manholes are covered up because they fill up with dirt and stuff. So once we get it blacked up and the manholes open, it should run pretty good, I would think. But until we get it blacked up, might have an incident or two yet, who knows? Depends on, maybe we're done with the big rains.
There was discussion on the fuel island or the
Yeah,
fuel
that's right.
situation that, and I mentioned it to Andy here too, but he had a price 50,000 for the barrel and the computer system that records the gallonage for each specific truck and use and all that. And he had a little sticker shock on that, but I've been conferring with Andy on that and Brian is because right now they're using an old laptop to get the information off the one that we currently have because it's so outdated, but Andy hobbled it to make it work. And so it's the same one they use out at the airport. So I was just wondering if there's a way we could maybe use some of these dollars to help, get it all together and work as a,
So when they put gas on, it goes right to the main computer. And
well, yeah, I mean, it's something that coincides with the airport too. So we're in early talks on that and try to figure that out. I know Brian was going to look at another route too. He had another lower bid that see if how that was going to work out, but it's not really a bid. We're just getting quotes right now. So
Estimates or whatever.
Yep. Something with the office furniture too. I couldn't hear the whole thing on that one, but it was budgeted 100,000 for that. It looks like they're gonna probably get to that. I was so thinking we're gonna be under that one, but we'll see here. Because the furniture is you can't get furniture. I mean, it's just like everything else. You can't get the stuff. So
we see you found,
people are snapping it up and
we found a different website the other day that's got used furniture. from
Refurbished.
business, Yeah, that people have quit business through the COVID and they're sitting there waiting to be sold. So he was gonna go look through some of that and see if he couldn't get some furniture there. Some of it's pretty good furniture, the business probably bought it and then went broke a year later. Yes, those desks, something like that should be
Yeah.
pretty fair.
And they're working on preparing for fair time too, try to get fencing and stuff moved out of the way to make it easy accessible to the buildings in the back there stuff, so.
Well, they could do all that parking themselves, that fair board. I mean, they let these guys bring their cattle trailers and they park them up there for the whole week. You go back there by that horse shed, you got campers, there's people camping up there all week. Why do they need to stay there? Just because they got a horse there? I mean, why are they letting them take up all that parking?
Because that's what they've always done.
But I mean, if they want parking this year, they might have to change their ways.
That's a fair board decision there.
Yeah.
Mhm. That's not us.
It was a chastisement I got too, as far as, you've taken up a lot of our parking.
That horse is valuable.
Yeah. What?
Okay? And you talk to a horse person.
Some of them horses are like a kid. They get every
Well, that's
shot under the sun.
Take care of the horse better than the kids. Anyway,
There is no, I ain't gonna argue that.
Donna, you got any, or Carol, you got anything for us? You over there, just checking to see if you had anything to add.
Good point.
Tess left, was she coming back? Did she have anything?
No, she didn't. I
Okay.
was just wondering if you had anything. for her.
Donna, you got anything for us?
No, I don't think so, actually. Not that I can think of right at the moment here.
I can't help it.
What's up? Go on.
Sleeping, no. No, I don't have anything really.
I don't know who's online. Is there any other public comment?
Nope. Brian and Mary Beth.
Brian, I don't hear you saying anything. Mary, I don't hear you saying anything. That said, is there anything else, or are we going to entertain a motion to adjourn?
would like to ask Donna one question. I have some customers down in the Brownsville area, Donna, and
Okay,
they want to know how this is going to affect their taxes by dropping their garbage.
oh, for Brownsville,
Yeah, because they got $52,000 set aside for their garbage. So are they gonna be getting that coming off of their levy then?
Right.
You will do that?
yeah, they haven't submitted their levy for the year. That doesn't happen till the fall. So when they submit their levy, obviously, there's been some talk by some of the Brownsville Township members that they're gonna put some of that money that they had on garbage to another like road and bridge. So they're gonna divvy it out a little bit more so they'll make more money to improve their roads. That's what I've been hearing, but it depends on what the board's gonna decide. I don't know what they're gonna decide to do, but yeah, they'll more than likely have their levy decreased because they won't have that much, for obviously for waste, but that's
Can't charge somebody for being picking it up, right? So-
Well, it's all in the levy, so it doesn't matter
Yeah.
what specific charges, it's whatever Brownsville Township levies for that year is what the taxes are gonna be, so. There's no,
They're having their,
For the fee that they pay us.
right, and for everything else they do, so.
they're gonna have a continuation of their annual
I mean-
meeting where they will set the levy.
Right,
And that's where it'll be determined if they're gonna
Right, yeah.
increase the road and bridge.
right,
And they can drop the garbage one just to what the county charges. It's their option too.
it's however they wanna structure their
Yeah.
levy, what they wanna levy.
And that's in August, I believe. I don't know what the date is of their annual
It's a
meeting.
township question.
It's a
Yep.
township question.
We don't have anything to do with what the township does on
No,
that.
exactly.
Just collect forms.
we just wait for them to submit the levy and then I put it on with no questions asked. Whatever they want to do.
Mhm.
Well, they were asking if their levy was gonna drop to 52,000, and I said, that's hard to say.
It's up to the township.
Exactly. And some people, were thinking that they're gonna get money back and they said,
A
no, that's
rebate, no.
not
the levy for next year.
Go pay your taxes, so we get paid.
That's right.
Thank you, Donna, for handling the sale of the properties.
Well done.
That was well done.
Oh, yeah, thank you. And I'll probably, we've been kind of busy here. And I'm probably gonna get the breakdown to you guys maybe next week and can just take a look at it, see what the expenses were and everything.
So are we cleared up on properties now as far as there's still more to come deal with?
There's still more to come. We've got that one in Money Creek, but there's another one that's forfeiting, so we're just gonna kind of wait for that. And then there's some that I was telling Bob that we're trying to collect yet, and we haven't had the sheriff go post the notices, so it's gonna be a little while, maybe yet late this fall.
Okay,
But we've got about maybe 6 or so. I'm thinking by the time it all boils down, we might have maybe 3, total,
all right.
most. They've been coming in slow but sure, and paying. Send out enough letters, and if you can get a hold of them, and we've been doing pretty well, actually, trying to send out letters and notifications, and but you can only do so much. So now I think it's time we are going to start with the sheriff's proceedings, and then just have them post notices, and then they get a little bit more excited when they see that, and then they end up paying up. So
Push comes to shove.
Supper up at the ballpark today.
National Night Out.
Yeah, National Night Out.
Oh, is that tonight?
Tonight.
I suppose Tuesday in the park, but it'll be up that park. Okay.
Which part?
Up by the pool. Yep.
Oh, okay.
They don't have a dunk tank this year again. so
That's because you wouldn't
I'll be
volunteer.
selling tickets.
Nobody
tonight.
called.
I'll be giving the ticket.
I've been
What do you
enjoying
want?
watching the goats at Sprague Woods there chewing away there. Yeah, they're really cleaning her up.
Oh, God, it's amazing what they do.
I still think you should have a dump tank for the fair.
What'd you say, Craig?
Just took some photos the other day. I think I got the best portrait of the boy.
I didn't know that was a thing.
I know in Rushford, they had them up on the hill by the sign, and they'd see this flock up there. It's kind of cool.
Mhm.
Have they been on and all lately, or they settled down now?
Every once in a while, a couple of goats get out. Some other issues. They've
I
had
heard
some
that was an issue, that coyotes were.
Stalking them.
after the little ones. There's been a few other issues, but
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll
Second.
motion made, seconded to adjourn. Further discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, everybody.